Most people who are running an AI agency, they struggle with building all the systems, having all the processes, and just the overwhelming amount of stuff that you actually do have to implement if you do really want to scale past the 10, 20, 30K a month mark. So as you can see on my screen here, I'm showing you everything, quite literally everything. Just to give you a quick preview, there's 5 main phases that we're going to be covering. 1 is laying the foundation. 2, crafting offer and the assets. 3, lead generation machine. Phase 4, closing and fulfillment. And phase 5, scale and build the machine. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff we're covering in each section. So if you stay to the end of this video, you're going to really have everything you need, quite literally everything. Also going to be showing you our exact campaign structure, break down here, our entire client onboarding process, which is this here. I'm literally showing you everything. And the reason I'm doing this is firstly because of the fact that this is exactly what helped us close 32,000 in sales in the first, you can see 19 days here. The title of this YouTube video is 30K in 30 days, but it was actually like 19 days. And so this is back in January 2024. As you can see, January 1st to January 31st, did a little over 31,000. It was actually up to the 19th here, but you can see these are the systems we used to do that. And now if I go to all time here, we've done well over $500,000 now. And so these are the systems that we use to do that. And so I'm quite literally just going to show you everything. And so let's get right into this here. So first thing is laying the foundation, right? This is the ground level stuff. All right. So inside of here, we have 3 main sections, right? We have the select your core offer, which is just, what do you mostly want to sell to these businesses? And it's essentially your AI infrastructure as a whole. Picking your niche / your ideal avatar, right? Who do you ideally want to sell these to? Who's the person that can benefit most, or the business that can benefit most from your core offer? And then of course, setting up your pricing framework. So those are the basic building blocks of just laying the foundation, right? And so those are very, very important because everything that we do from here on out is on top of the foundation, right? Same as a house. You build the foundation, then you build everything on top of it. If you just went straight to building, the walls, the support, all that sort of stuff, the house would not, wouldn't survive if there were any sort of, natural disasters. If there's no good foundation, you're just screwed, right? It's the same as if we just went right away to building the ads, the systems without a clear idea of what our offer is, our pricing, our niche, just the overall foundation. It's going to be really messy. And so it's super, super important to have this stuff in place. So when it comes to selecting your core offer, there's a lot of different things, right? We want to have the voice AI as the main component because that's the thing right now that is the most leverage and people are willing to pay the most for, right? It's the highest demand thing out there. And so you can definitely add other things like lead generation, sales, training, all this sort of stuff to your offer. But in this video, I'm going to focus exclusively on the voice AI side of things because that's what a lot of people who are starting out or, really under the 20K a month mark should be focusing on. So these are the main things that you can offer with the voice AI, right? AI appointment setters, AI lead qualifiers, AI client onboarding assistants, AI customer support agents, and AI reactivation campaigns. Those are the main things. And these components make up your AI infrastructure, right? Because you can offer multiple of these to businesses depending on what they need, right? Or you can offer just one single AI appointment center you can sell to a business for 5K, 10K, 15K upfront. We've done it. Our partners do it all the time. You can do it. And there's a lot of these other ones, right? AI lead qualifiers. Let's say they're generating leads. The AI calls these leads, qualifies them, confirms their info, etc. Onboarding assistant, just to automate the onboarding process. Maybe it calls the person as soon as you close them to welcome them to your business, whatever the case may be, right? Customer support agent's pretty self-explanatory. Receptionist, customer support agent taking inbound calls. That's huge because that gives a business 24/7 customer service, all that sort of stuff. Now, that's the main components of your offer, right? What do you really want to offer? And this will depend on the business you're going after, right? The niche, your ideal avatar. That's what all of these work really kind of synergetically to kind of create that perfect core offer and build that strong foundation. So you can pick your offer, but it's also going to depend on the niche, right? And so your niche that you're going after, I talk about this all the time. The niche doesn't really matter with voice AI. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter, like you shouldn't pick a niche, because you definitely should pick a niche, but the niche you pick doesn't really matter as long as you have all the systems in place. Because every niche that you could target has qualified businesses, has unqualified businesses, has businesses you want to work with, you don't want to work with. Those are in every single niche. And so as long as you have the systems in place and you pick a niche and stick to it, you don't want to niche hop. You don't want to be a niche hopper, which you see all the time. People pick a niche, they find it's a bit tough, and then they think the grass is greener in another niche. It's going to be the same struggles in all the niches, really. Or the struggles might be different, but every niche has their struggles. And so when you're picking your niche or your ideal avatar, what industry niche do you want to pick specifically? Home services, real estate, marketing agencies, coaches, medical clinics, med spas, insurance companies. These are all great niches to pick because they're all phone call heavy, right? Most niches nowadays rely on phone calls to book their appointments, or a ton of businesses are running ads to where they need something, aka the AI, to call these leads right away and book them in, because people don't want to be doing that manually, especially now that there is AI to do it. They're going to implement it no matter what. So you might as well be the one to sell it, right? Unless you want me or somebody else to be the one to close the businesses. So that's something you want to keep in mind when you're picking your niche. Company size, because the size of the company makes a big difference in how much they're going to be willing to pay, how much they'll benefit from it, how many calls they're making, all this sort of stuff. And so how many employees does your ideal avatar have? Do they have, are they under 5 employees? You're trying to go after maybe startups or small companies, or are they, over 20, over 50 companies? You're trying to go after nice, probably, multi-7, multi-8-figure companies. How many leads are they generating per day? Because if you're building a voice AI for a business and they're generating 2 leads a day, it might not even make sense for you to close a business like that, because maybe for them, in that case, 5K upfront doesn't make sense because they can call those 2 leads every day. But if they're generating, 50 leads a day, 100 leads a day over the course of the month, that's, 3,000 leads over the course of the month if they're doing 100 a day. And so they need something to call those leads, because you can't, sure, 100 leads a day is doable for a human to call. Then you have to think about the fact that day 1, they have 100 leads to call. Day 2, they now have 200 leads to call because they have to call the new leads and follow up with the old leads. That continues to compound. Day 3, they have 300, then 400, 500, etc. That's where it starts getting tough for a human to do. And the AI can massively help these businesses. And so in that case, how many leads do you want the business to be generating? How much revenue do you want them to be generating? Do you want them to be at a specific point in terms of, are they doing 10K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month, 800K a month? Are they at that 8-figure a year mark? And so that makes a big difference as well, because the smaller businesses, they're going to have smaller money to play with. They're not going to have as much to invest, right? And so if you're speaking to businesses doing 10K a month, are they really going to be able to pay you 10K up front, a full month of revenue? Not profit, revenue, because if they're doing 10K a month, they might be profiting anywhere from like 1,000 to 5,000. Are they really going to spend 10K on you? I doubt it. And so that's why you want to make sure the revenue is there as well. And then the profit, because revenue doesn't mean a whole lot, right? If a business is doing 100K in revenue, but they're only profiting 10K, or a business is doing 20K in revenue and they're profiting 15K, I'd rather work with a business doing 20K revenue and 15K profit, because they're taking more home, which means they have more to invest. So company size, these are all things you do want to take into account. Now, their biggest pain points, right? Because you're selling something to them, you ideally want it to solve a pain point, right? One of the big pain points they're facing. So what are these pain points? For a home service company, is it missed calls because they're always on jobs, right? If you're working for a plumber, for example, they're always doing jobs. They're going to miss so many calls because they're in the middle of working. And so an AI to be able to handle those calls for them, that's huge. That's a big, big pain point for a home service company, specifically, a plumber, electrician, home renovation company, those types of things. Speed to lead. And so for marketing agencies, speed to lead, coaches, speed to lead is a huge thing, right? You get leads, you want to be the first one to contact them. And that's difficult to do when you're doing other things. You don't have an AI agent to call them. A lot of agencies and coaches have people to do this, but they're paying them, right? And so speed to lead is a big one. Slow sales process, right? For real estate, slow sales process, because they're going back and forth with people all the time. But if you set an AI agent up to kind of fulfill for that, bad lead follow-up system. That's a big one for really everybody. Bad lead follow-up system. Most people don't follow up their leads, whereas we can build the AI out to follow up these leads nonstop, really forever. And so that makes things very, very streamlined and easy to follow, because now you have an AI to get triggered to call people who haven't booked yet and continue following up with them on autopilot. That's where I was talking about before, right? Where a person, they might have to do 100 dials the first day, and then the next day they have 100 new leads. So they have to call those new leads and follow up with the 100 old leads from yesterday. Now they have 200 leads and 300 and 400 as the days go by, which is very time consuming. Like, a human's not really going to be able to pass 300 hours a day if they're working, 8-10 hours. An AI can call all of those within a minute every day, right? So that's where it's very beneficial to these businesses. Now, we have kind of the core offer taken care of, picking your niche and your ideal avatar. Now, setting up your pricing framework. So when it comes to the pricing, right, there's a few different ways we can go about this. You got to price it based on you got to look at these main things, the use case, and then kind of how you're pricing it based on the use case. And so there's a lot of different things, right? A lot of the industry, the company size, and the pain point also are the things you want to keep in mind when you're pricing, because a company that's doing a million a month is going to have more to invest than a company that's doing 10,000 a month. But they're also going to be able to benefit a lot more if they're doing $1 million a month, because they will have more leads, they'll have more dials that need to be done. And so the AI can fulfill all of those, because the AI, most businesses aren't doing enough volume to where the AI can't handle it, right? I haven't seen a business that's doing too much volume for an AI to handle, right? 10,000 dials a minute. Nobody's doing that kind of volume. And so the bigger businesses, the AI can fulfill for business no matter what. So the bigger businesses are going to benefit way more because they have more leads that need to be called. So if the AI can replace that, it's a much bigger task than a company that's doing 2 leads a day, right? So the use cases, we already spoke about it a bit, right? Appointment booking, lead qualification, customer service follow-ups. Those are a few examples. This and this are the main ones that we see. These ones, not so much, but they're still very, very valuable, right? And so those are examples for the use case. Now, when it comes to how you're actually pricing this, right? There's, again, 4 main ways you can really price it. Upfront payments, monthly retainers, revenue share, or per appointment. So upfront payment is just, it's 10K, pay it to me before we start building. They pay you 10K as soon as you close them, and then you start the build and everything, right? That's paid upfront, pretty self-explanatory. Monthly retainers, if you want to, use this AI, it's $1,000 a month just to have access to it and for our support and maintenance, etc. And so that's a monthly retainer, right? They pay monthly, same time every month, and they just get charged like a subscription, like you pay for Netflix, all that sort of stuff, right? It just comes every month. Revenue share. So revenue share is, let's say I build the AI for you, it generates you $10,000 directly from the AI. I want 20% of that. So if I generate you 10,000, you pay me my 20%, which is 2,000 for building the AI for you. And that's revenue share. Now, per appointment, pretty similar to revenue share. Per appointment is, let's say I want $100 per appointment that the AI books you, because I know you have a 25% close rate and you close clients for $5,000. So I want $100 per appointment that this AI books you, knowing that you'll close 1 in 4 for $5,000. So I'll get pretty much $400 for every client you close. And so That's another way to go about it. I like to stay clear of these because these are going to have to hunt down the business, right? Most businesses, they don't want to pay you. They don't. Even if you're providing value, a lot of businesses, they'd rather keep the money, right? And so I don't like hunting people down, making sure they're not lying about their revenue share, how many appointments they got, all that sort of stuff. And so it's just annoying. So I like to stay with these. This is what I call the sweet spot, right? Large upfront payment plus small monthly retainer. 5 to 15K upfront, and then anywhere from $300 to $500 a month for support, maintenance, ongoing kind of, live updates, pushing them, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's what I like to call the sweet spot, right? Upfront payment, monthly retainer. That's what we have all our partners do, and that's what we do ourselves. So this is phase one. This is laying the foundation. As you can see, we're going deep in here, right? So that's phase one. And so selecting your core offer, picking your ideal avatar, and then setting up your pricing. So that's laying the foundation. Now we can head over to phase two here. Phase two is crafting offer and assets. Now we're actually getting into building some of the stuff, right? So now that we have the foundation built, now we can head on to actually setting up some of the stuff that rely on the foundation. So first thing is creating the irresistible offer, right? And so when it comes to this plays a role in the core offer and your ideal niche and avatar play a role in your creating your irresistible offer, right? The whole point of an irresistible offer is to create something that is so valuable people feel stupid saying no. You guys have probably heard Alex Hormozi say that, right? He kind of started to create an irresistible offer, create something that people will feel stupid saying no to. So you want to sell the outcome, right? Nobody cares about an AI bot. Nobody cares about an AI agent that can make 10,000 calls a minute. You want to sell the outcome. Double your booked appointments without hiring sales reps. That's something that the AI can do, right? And then another option is 24/7 customer service without more reps. That's valuable to a business, right? We had a business that we closed. They were an 8-figure recruitment company. And I spoke to them on the call, and they wanted an AI customer service agent. And so they had a receptionist who was working, who was doing customer service, but she couldn't take the volume of calls that were coming through because you're human. You can only take one inbound call at a time, right? You can't be, too phoned up talking to people, right? And so it just didn't make sense for her to be doing that job because she could have been doing other things. It just didn't make sense. The opportunity cost wasn't there for the business. And also paying her like 50 grand a year. And so when I told him that AI can handle that entirely for them, he was like, "Oh my God, what's the price?" I was like, "It's 7 grand." This was early on. This was very early on. This was about a week or two after that 30K January I showed you last year. So we're still pretty new into it, but we've done about 30K. I speak to this guy and I'm like, "It's 7 grand one time." He's like, "Let's do it." No questions, nothing. All because it was just 24/7 customer service. That was all he needed to see. That's how valuable that is for some businesses. And he was also the ideal client because he's an 8-figure company. He's a ton of money. Even let's say he didn't care about the risk. 7 grand, he makes that back by 3 hours after our call. And so it really didn't matter, right? And so that's why the business, the niche makes a big difference. The size of the business makes a big difference in the use case, right? And the value you're offering. So there's bonuses, right? You can add in there. Just sweeten it up a bit, right? Rapid and seamless setup. We tell them it'll take 5 to 7 days. People are usually pretty impressed with that, which I don't think it's that crazy to be honest, but people are usually hyped when they see it can get done that quick. Then AI personalization, free support for 30 days. These are types of things you can throw on just to sweeten up the offer. And then the risk reversal. This is a big one, especially with online space, right? Because trust is at an all-time low with online business, right? And so you want to have some sort of risk reversal, which is essentially, if it doesn't do this, we will give you a refund. It's the same as the guarantee, right? And so the risk reversal, if it doesn't perform, we will optimize it for free until it does. That's a good one because it doesn't force you to have give a refund if you make a little mistake in the setup process or whatever it may be. But it's also pretty appealing to a business, right? If it doesn't perform, we will optimize it for free until it does. And so, it's a pretty solid guarantee right there. And that's kind of a good idea of how you can create your irresistible offer. And so let's say your irresistible offer will be double your booked appointments. Let's say you're going after roofing companies, for example. If you're a roofing company, we'll double your booked appointments without you needing to hire any more sales reps, and we'll give you free support for 30 days to make sure everything's working properly. And if it doesn't perform, we will optimize it for free until it does. That's starting to sound like a pretty irresistible offer, right? Double your booked appointments, and if it doesn't perform, we'll optimize it for free until it does. It's pretty juicy, right? And so now building your core infrastructure. Now we're getting to building the sales process. You can see here, right? We got a decent little bit of stuff here. So I'm gonna be covering it all. So now when it comes to building the core infrastructure, this is the core infrastructure on your side, right? For how to acquire these clients. This is really important. The funnel, right? This is the typical funnel flow we like to follow. Opt-in page / VSL page, qualification page, booking page, and thank you page, right? So these all play a large part in the sales process, right? The opt-in VSL page is the first page you want to collect their information and have them watch a VSL, video sales letter is what VSL stands for. So you want to have them watch that VSL because the VSL does a lot of important things, answers a ton of the main questions, handles a ton of the objections they might have, and then also makes them want to buy more, right? You're selling them on that video as well. That's why it's so powerful because if it's like a 20, 25-minute video, which ours is about that length, they're watching this before they even get on call with you. And so this is huge because now when they get on call, they're not going to have some of the questions they would have had. They're not going to have some of the objections that they would have had because the VSL handled it. And now they probably want to buy more too because of the fact that they watched the whole VSL. Now, when it comes to go high level, right? Go high level, there's a few things you want to set up. The pipelines, the tags, and the tracking. Those are a couple examples, right? And so I'm not going to go too in depth on the go high level side in this, but these are just an example of some things. A lot of this is done in go high level as well. The funnel, the booking, really all of this is done inside of go high level except the ad setup. And so we're going to go through more of this later. The ad setup, I'm going to show you quite literally exactly how we set up our ads. And so when it comes to the go high level side, right, the pipelines just makes it nice to organize, right, where your leads are throughout your process, right? Because you can have different sections in your pipeline for, okay, they opted in, but they didn't book. opt in, book, show up, or didn't show up, close deal, onboarded, fulfilled, satisfied. You can have all those options in the pipeline, right? So that makes things very easy to organize. Tags are huge as well. We use tags for really everything, and that's how we can track where leads came from. Did they come from our YouTube? Did they come from Instagram? They come from ads? They come from school? Whatever it may be, that's how we can track all that with tags. And then tracking kind of goes hand in hand with that, because you want to track as much as you can, all the data, right? You want to track as much as possible. And so now in the booking automation side of things, right? Booking automations are pretty straightforward, but this is all about now these people booked, right? So you've already taken them from a not knowing you to convincing them enough or intriguing them enough to opt into your ad. They clicked the ad, they opted in, they watched the VSL, they went through the calendar, they booked. They've already done a lot of little micro commitments. Now you really need to try to push them over the edge so that when they get on the sales call, they're already 50 to 90% sold, right? And so when they get on there, or when they book, we want to be giving them as many things as possible in between the time that they booked to the time they're going to be getting on the call to sell them. And so the best things to do for this are sending testimonials, right? Client testimonials are always huge. Sending them content. If you have YouTube videos, whatever it may be, webinars, we send those to our people who book. We send them content, testimonials, all that sort of stuff. And also the email and text reminders, of course, right? Because you need them to show up. Sending them testimonials, content, all this sort of stuff. The fact that they booked doesn't even matter if they don't show up, right? So we need to make sure they show up. That's where the email and text reminders play a large part. And now the nurturing sequences. The nurturing sequences are before they book, right? Nurturing sequences, the job of the nurturing sequences is to get people to book. The booking automations are to get them to show up and close, right? So the nurturing sequences would be a lead opts in, they opt into your ad, but let's say they just left the funnel. They didn't book. They're like, you know what, I'm not feeling it right now. We don't want to lose them, right? We want to keep them in our ecosystem because they were interested enough to opt in. So there's some intrigue there. Now we need to sell them. So similar things to this, we want to send them testimonials, email flows, SMS flows, AI trigger flows. So we're sending them emails with these things, testimonials, content, not email reminders so they didn't book, but testimonials and content to nurture them, warm them up, get them to consume as much as possible, right? Because Google did a study where a prospect, a new lead or new person, a new whatever you want to call it, needs to consume 7 hours of content across 11 touch points, I believe is what it was. Don't quote me on that, to become a buyer. And so that's why sending them content, right? Sending them YouTube videos, all this sort of stuff. And then we're also having the AI call them as well. So they're getting hit from SMS, email, and phone calls. And they're getting testimonials, YouTube videos, all this sort of stuff. So we're really nurturing them, and they're going to be in our ecosystem forever, right? They're on our email list now. And then the ad setup, right? So the ads, these are another main component of building a core infrastructure, the ad setup. So when it comes to the ad setup, there's a few different ways we can go about this. There's AI demos or AI UGC ads, right? And so what these are is I'm actually going to pull up a demo, and I'm going to kind of show you what these look like. And so I'll show you what an example of a demo creative looks like that we've used. I'll kind of quickly walk you through what AI UGC ads are, just in case you've never seen them before. All right, so this is an example of a demo here. And so it's quite simple what a demo is, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a demo of the AI in action. And so this is a call recording that my business partner Nick made. And this actually did very well as an ad creative because you'll see it here. It's a pattern interrupt. He's swearing to the AI, telling you, like, why are you calling me? Why are you annoying me? The AI handles it very well. And so I'll play it real quick just so you can hear it.
Listen, you need to stop calling this number. This is the 5th fucking time this week that you're calling. Okay? I'm tired of these calls.
I completely understand, Nick. The reason for my call today is to ensure that you and your loved ones have the best.
So as you can see, that's an insurance one. I'm not going to show you the whole demo there, but that's pretty self-explanatory, right? We've run probably 500 different demos to test out different colors, different wave patterns, different actual demos of the AI, different subtitles, different logos, everything. And these ones do very, very well. We actually started the demo ads. I don't know if you guys would notice, but we started these back last year. And when we launched that the Stripe thing I showed you here of January 1st to January 30th, where we did that 32K, that was all with running demo ads. And they were very bare bones demo ads because nobody ran them before. We were the first ones running them, and now everybody runs them. People copy us. I would see my voice on other people's creatives on Instagram, but that's besides the point. And so these do very, very well. That's an example of a demo creative. Now, ArcAds, which is where you can do UGC AI videos, is pretty interesting. And so you can give it a prompt. I'm not going to go in. I don't have an account with them, but you can go in. There's other things like Creatify as well, which are pretty similar. A lot of people say it's better than ArcAds, but these are for AI UGC. So you see these videos here. These are all AI. This is not a real person. This is AI. So you give it a prompt, a script, and it will create an AI avatar for you, and it will essentially be a talking head video with B-roll and stuff like that as you prompt it, and it's all done by AI. These are pretty cool as well. They're pretty easy to make, but definitely worth testing out as well. So those are a couple different examples of different creatives that you can use. And so to continue here, there's a couple other aspects of the paid ads, right? And again, I'm going to show you exactly our structure of how to test all these because paid ads is a lot of testing, right? So you want to be as efficient as possible with that so you're not throwing money down the drain. I'll show you exactly how to do that in a bit here, but there's a couple ways. ChatGPT is getting ridiculously powerful. I use ChatGPT. I create a lot of our ads, a lot of our the copy, the headlines, the creators themselves. I do a lot of that for the company. And so I've been using ChatGPT a ton for this because ChatGPT is getting so damn good at writing good copy that I use it to kind of create an outline, and then I will tweak it and refine it. So you can use ChatGPT for the primary text, the headlines, all that sort of stuff in your ads. Then you want to set up the pixel. The pixel is very straightforward to set up, but if you've never done it before, it can be a little daunting. It can look a little intimidating almost, but it is very, very straightforward to set up. And so The pixel helps track all your events, leads, bookings. You can really prompt it to track any kind of conversions that you do want to track, page views, anything like that. Very useful. And it helps the ads optimize because you connect the pixel, you put it on all of your funnels and everything, and then you connect it to your ad campaign. And so the data that the pixel picks up will help Facebook optimize your ads based on that. And so you also want to create dynamic custom audiences, which are where, let's say you have an email list, right? For example, where, you know how I mentioned people will opt in, but maybe they don't book, right? Now you have a huge list of people who've opted in. You have their email, their phone number, their name, but they didn't book. This is where you can create a custom audience and create what's called a retargeting campaign. This is where you can take that list of all your leads, create an audience in Facebook, and have a new type of ad, a retargeting ad, only get shown to those people. And that ad, we ran one not long ago where it was me, and I was like, hey, you joined our free community, but you haven't booked yet. And I'm calling out those people, and we ran it to all the people in our free school. And so that's an example of a retargeting ad. And that's what's super nice about custom audiences. And you can also create lookalike audiences, which is where Facebook will take your custom audience and create a lookalike audience, which is a lookalike audience just means it's targeting people that most closely resemble the people in that list you gave it. And so it's pretty interesting. The Facebook algorithm is pretty powerful. And then you want to create and launch the ad campaign. And so that's really the main components of building your core infrastructure there. And then there's another cool thing that you might want to leverage, and that's preparing lead magnets. You can use ChatGPT to create these and then tweak them. It's very, very powerful. Lead magnets get people interested. We post lead magnets all the time. Those are some of the highest engaging things in our school community. We have lead magnets with like 700 people commenting on them. And so lead magnets are very powerful. You can run ads with lead magnets to get people to opt in, get their email, and then run retargeting ads, all that sort of stuff. And so free VSL scripts, AI calling scripts, free offer audits, all this type of stuff, right? We've run a lot of different lead magnets and they're super, super good. And that's free value plus conversions, right? And so it's pretty straightforward. Or that's supposed to say free value equals conversions, not plus conversions. Let me change that real quick. Equals conversions. Free value equals conversions. You want to give your best stuff away for free. That's how you get people. Give the information away for free, but sell the implementation. That's the best process. So now we're done phase 2, crafting your offer and assets. And this video is going to be a long one. We're already at like the 30-minute mark here. But this is going to be a juicy one. So let's keep it going. Inside of here, now we get into what I like this stuff. I like the marketing side of things. Phase 3, the lead generation machine. Now let's generate some damn leads. Let's run the ads. I'll show you the entire process here. So there's a few main things inside of phase 3, the lead generation machine, that we want to cover. 1 is the paid ads engine. 2 is the full lead journey, what that should look like. 3 is inbound plus outbound stacking. And 4 is nurturing and retargeting. So let's get into this here. So the paid ads engine, I already showed you the demo in UGC Creatives. Those are some great ones you can run. There's also, you can run ones like right now we're running an ad where I'm just talking to the camera exactly as it's set up right now. I'm talking to the camera, calling out the audience to book a call. And it's actually doing quite well already. We just launched them last night. And then, like I said, ChatGPT for primary text, ChatGPT for headlines, and then don't just take it directly from ChatGPT. Usually, I like to take it from ChatGPT and then edit it and tweak it. Because ChatGPT does give good outlines, but there's some things I find sound a little AI-y or AI-ish, I guess. And then target based on your niche, and then retargeting setup, which is kind of what I mentioned. There was custom audiences and whatnot. And optimize for cost per qualified booked appointment. On the marketing side, that's the thing you want to optimize for the most. Of course, the cost per acquisition is the most important, right? How much are you putting in to get a closed client? But that's also part of the sales side, right? So if we're talking just marketing, the best thing you can get is get qualified booked appointments. So your cost per qualified booked appointment is what you want to track. You might get a super good cost per booked appointment, right? Maybe you're getting like a $50 cost per booked appointment, which is amazing. But let's say 1 in 5 appointments are actually qualified, right? Actually, people who are ready to invest and interested. That would put your cost per qualified booked appointment at $250 per qualified booked appointment, right? Because if 1 in 5 are, and you're getting $50 per booked appointment, that's a cost per booked appointment of $250. So the actual campaign setup here. So as you can see, I set up something here to show you the general ad campaign structure. This is how we want to structure a leads campaign. So this is how we can optimize for testing. Because in the beginning, right, you might have an idea of what you do want to implement, right? But, let me change this here. This should say ad set 2 and ad set 3, because we want to have 3 different ad sets going. And I'm just kind of assuming, let's say your budget is like $150 a day. Each one of these, you want to put at $50 a day to test. And we'll have 3 ad sets inside of a leads campaign. Or you'll be running a leads campaign. I don't recommend running a Facebook lead form. I'd recommend having opted on the first page of your funnel, and then just capturing the information there so that when people click the ad, they get sent right to the landing page. But inside of the actual campaign itself, right, so we're structuring a leads campaign. And then inside of there, we're gonna have 3 ad sets because we want to test different things, right? Each ad set is gonna have its own targeting, okay? So let's say we're targeting, for example, let's say home services, for example. Let's say we're doing home services, but we don't know which home service company we actually kind of want to target. We're kind of deciding between like plumbers, electricians, home renovation, for example. So let's say the first ad set, we're targeting plumbers. That's our interest. The interest targeting will be plumbers. Let's say the second one will be home renovation. And then the third one will be, let's say, roofers, okay? So those are the 3 interests we're testing. Now, inside of each of these, actually, that's probably not the best example because they're pretty different niches, those 3. So let's actually switch this up. Let's say we're going after, what do I want to say? Let's say we're going after roofers, okay? So we're targeting roofers. We're targeting, let's say, another interest that could be like construction. because that's a pretty similar interest to roofing, right? Fairly similar. And then maybe we do leave home reno because doing a roofing job is similar to home renovation, right? You're renovating a home. So those kind of align, right? So we might want to see, hey, which one do we want to test? Because one thing you'll see with ads is the one you think will perform the best usually doesn't. And then the one you don't think is going to do good usually does well. So it's worth testing out these types of things. So these are the 3 interests we're testing, right? And after a couple of days, we'll be able to see, okay, which interest is doing best. But for us to know that the actual variable that is impacting the result is the interest, everything else needs to be the same across these ad sets, right? And so that's why we're going to have 5 creatives that are the exact same. These 5 creatives are the exact same as these 5 creatives and the same as these 5 creatives. So that way those are the same, right? But we also want to test these creatives at the same time and know which one of these 5 is doing the best. And that's where dynamic creative optimization, which you can see right here, that comes into play. This is a feature that Facebook has where you can upload multiple creatives, multiple primary text, multiple headlines, and Facebook will test them all, match them all together, and you'll be able to see the individual performance of each one of these by themselves. That's why this is so powerful. So now we can have 5 creatives inside of here, inside of each ad set, 3 primary texts, and the primary text will be the same in these ones as these ones and these ones. Then the headlines will have 3 headlines as well. These headlines will be the same in this ad set as they are in this one, as they are in this one. And so these will all be the same. And then the CTA, you always want the CTA to be learn more. Always, always. Just the best. It's the least kind of it's the smallest commitment, right? Then book now or apply now. Learn more is the best. I use it for every single ad set, regardless of what we're running. And so now when we launch this campaign, we'll be able to see which interest is doing the best. We'll also be able to see which ad creative is doing the best. We'll also then be able to see which primary text is doing the best. We'll be able to see which headline is doing the best. We'll be able to see the CTA is learn more. So now let's say after this, okay? Let's say now I'm going to copy this rectangle here. And then let's say now we want to test our winner, okay? So now we know we've been running, let's say the ad set for a couple days now. We know what the winner is, right? So let's say, let me change this real quick. Winner, and let's say the interest that won was, let's say roofer. Let's say roofer was 1. That interest did the best across these 3. And then let's say, you know what, ad creative 2 did the best. So we'll bring that over here. Headline or primary text 3 did the best. And headline 2 did the best. And then CTA learn more, we'll keep it the same. So now let's say this is our winner. So we take the best from all of these, right? The best out of all of these. We saw what performed the best. We looked at the dynamic creative stats, and now we're going to launch a winner. So out of everything that did the best, the roofing interest did the best. The ad creative 2 did better than these other ones. Primary text 3 did better than these 2. Headline 2 did better than these 2. We're going to take these and launch them in a winning campaign now. And so let's say our budget was $150 a day. I would put $100 to $120, probably $100 because it's a bit of a small budget. Let's say $100 towards this winning campaign. I would launch this at $100 a day. And then I would maybe turn off these other 2, and I would use that other $50 to keep testing different combinations, different creatives, different primary text, different headlines. And now we have our winner. So this one can just keep running and will most likely perform very well because we took the best components of the winning tests here, and we relaunched it. So that's a quick overview of how we want to structure the campaign to find the winner, and then how we want to launch the winner. And so that's a quick overview of that there. Now, when we get into the full lead journey here, right? So the full lead journey, this is just the process that we want the lead to go through from the point they see the ad and click on the ad all the way to when we, they get on the call with the closer. And so the full lead journey, they click the ad. Then when they click the ad, they get sent to the VSL/the opt-in page. And the VSL opt-in page is what we already spoke about. They're watching the video sales letter and they're opting with their name, email, phone number. So we have that. They watch the VSL and then they click a button that's like book now, which takes them to what we call a qualifying form. The qualifying form is to filter the unqualified leads and send them to the disqualified page and let the qualified leads pass through to book a call. Let's say you're targeting roofing companies and you only want roofing companies making over $50,000 a year or $50,000 a month, because you know their margins are maybe 30%, 20% to 35, 40%. So you know, hey, if they're making $50,000 a month, they'll be profiting anywhere from like 15 to 25K. So that's a decent amount for me to be able to charge 5 to 10K upfront. And so you ask the question, the only question is your roofing company making over $50K a month? If they say no, they get sent to a disqualified page, or it's a quick video of you saying, hey, sorry, unfortunately don't qualify for it right now. Here's some free resources that you can use, but this doesn't mean we can't work together in the future. Just right now, you're not the best fit. Something simple like that. But if they pick yes and they make an over $50K a month, they get sent to the qualified, route to book a call on the calendar slot. And so now they are, they book their call in the calendar, they answer some calendar questions to book their name, email, how much they're making, their goals, what do they want to use the AI for, all that type of stuff, right? And then they get sent confirmation email, just letting them know they confirmed their call. They get sent a confirmation SMS, just again, letting them know that their call is confirmed. And then they get an immediate triage call from a triager. This triager is doing a quick 5 to, maybe 15-minute call, confirming their information, making sure that they are qualified because some people lie, just confirming everything. And then he ends that call. It also builds up a lot of kind of authority and credibility leading up to the call as well, because that prospect is like, okay, I booked. They called me right away to see if I'm qualified. it does very well at putting your company in the authoritative position. And then after that triage call, the triager will submit a form. This form is for the closer. And so this is kind of the handoff here. So it goes from the lead, goes from the triager to the closer, and the closer to the client success manager, which I'll talk about a bit here on the onboarding process. But the triager submits this form. This has information about the prospect, their desires, their pain points. Are they financially qualified? When are they looking to get started? Are all decision makers going to be on the call? And then the triager leaves a rating from 1 to 4 for the closer based on how qualified they are. 1 being they're unqualified, and the triager will most likely just cancel anybody rated a 1. The 2 to 3, 2 is, they're not the most qualified, but they could potentially close. 3 is, okay, they're pretty qualified. They're meeting, they're financially qualified. They're ready to get started now, and they're going to be on the decision makers are going to be on the call. And then 4 is like, okay, he's ready to pay. It's not even going to be a tough close. It's just pretty much, it's just a formality to get on the call and get the payment. That's really what that means. And then that's the process there, and then the closer takes over the rest. So now, in terms of inbound plus outbound stacking, this is the next thing here, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can acquire clients. We're talking about the phase 3, the lead generation machine, right? So there's a lot of ways you can generate leads. We've been talking about mostly the inbound generation, right? Which is paid ads, organic content. We haven't talked about too much, but the paid ad side of things is really our bread and butter. That's where we acquire most of our leads. And so inbound is paid ads, which we've already gone over. Organic content, which is like this YouTube video. We're going to get leads from this YouTube video. Nick, my business partner, he posts videos. We get leads from those videos. We get bookings. And so that's organic content, the personal brand, proof and testimonials, value content, which this is an example of value content, right? I'm just showing you everything. And then there's videos where I have where it's testimonials of clients, all that sort of stuff, personal branding, just letting you know I'm a human. Those are the main types of content you want to post. You want to post content where it's proof, testimonials, what you've done for people, value, where you're just dropping value, giving people information that benefits them, and then personal brand, which is just you posting content that lets people know you're human, right? Like showing your life, your business, just letting people know you're more than just somebody making, value videos. You are a real human being. So that's the point of that. And then the outbound side of things is manual DMs, cold emails, AI calls, anything that's going out, right? And so pretty straightforward. And now when you stack all these together, you create a pretty powerful lead generation machine here. Now, nurturing and retargeting. We talked about the retargeting and nurturing a little bit already, but the nurturing and retargeting is super, super powerful. And so, because when you have people now in your ecosystem, they've opted in, they haven't booked or closed yet, they are more qualified than a cold lead because they did at least a small micro commitment of opting in. So they are worth targeting. Email and SMS sequences, retargeting ads, which I spoke about already, where you're sending ads to those specific people, and they will be seeing those non-stop. Like when you run retargeting ads, those leads will see them all the time. And then the AI calls. And so the AI calls are, of course, the AI calling these leads, booking them in, all that sort of stuff. And then daily triage or follow-ups. You can have a human call as well as an AI. Like now you're really hammering them, right? They're getting retargeting ads. So they are seeing you nonstop. They're getting emails and SMSs from you every day. When they go on Instagram or Facebook and they're scrolling, they're seeing you, calling them out. They're getting calls from the AI. They're getting calls from a triager. It's just a matter of time until they book and close. Now, that's phase 3, the lead generation machine. Now that we're generating leads, we can move into phase 4, which is closing and fulfillment. Get this money in, satisfy these clients, and then we can get to phase 5 after. So phase 4 is going to be covering this here, the sales process, ideally getting a 1-call close. We're going to be talking about the fulfillment or the onboarding process, which will be right below here. And so that I'll take you through the entire onboarding process there. We're going to talk about the fulfillment options, the different ways to fulfill for these AI clients. There's 3 main options. And we're going to talk about the delivery and client success side of things. And so this is the onboarding, and I'll cover that as well, because the onboarding is very, very important to make sure you get right. We had a bad onboarding process. That first month I showed you where we did 32K, we had no onboarding process at all. So the onboarding process, we know firsthand, is very, very important to get clients to actually trust you, to like you, and to give a good first impression, because the onboarding is the first time it's the first impression of your business when they're actually a client, right? They're working with you now. So it needs to be great, and I'll cover that. So the sales process. The closer, so now this is the handoff, right? The closer, the last thing that happened was the closer submitted that form with the rating and all the information. The closer reviews that form with the triager information, getting a good idea before they hop on the call. They hop on the call, it's all about the authority positioning. You can't be getting pushed around on the sales call. You're not going to close them no matter what. It's rare, but you might find those A-type prospects where they're trying to bully you on the call, take control. I hate that. You just can't have it happen. You just got to take control. And that will come with a bit of experience. But the main process of the sales call, 1 is rapport. Very quick, couple minutes at the start. Hey, where are you from? How you doing? Where are you calling from? Oh, I'm from Nashville. Oh, cool, Nashville. I've never been. I've heard great things though. Whatever. You can look at things behind their environment. Like I have an autographed Kobe jersey right behind me, and so people will always bring that up, and that's usually a good thing to start conversations. Back when I was taking the sales calls, people would always bring that up. Oh, is that a Kobe jersey? Yeah, and we'd start small talk, and that puts you off on a very good foot right there. When you can do nice, natural sounding rapport, you don't want to force it, you don't want it to be awkward, but you want to get started on a good foot, and because that can ruin the call right off the bat if you have bad rapport or if it's awkward. And so next is the discovery. The discovery portion of the call is very, very important, the most important. This is the bulk of the call. Probably 20 to 40 minutes of the call is going to be discovery, where you are finding out everything about their current situation. Why did they even want to book the call? What made them want to book the call now? Why haven't they booked the call before? What's their problem? How long have they had this problem? Why didn't they act on this problem before? What is the outcome? What is this problem affecting for them inside of the business? How is this problem affecting their life outside of the business? Are they stressed all the time? There's more than just monetary things that we want to focus on. And so how is their life being affected by this problem? What is their desired outcome? Why is that their desired outcome? What is their life going to look like when they achieve that desired outcome? What is their business going to look like when they achieve that desired outcome? And then you need to bridge the gap from the pain to the desired outcome and show them the AI infrastructure is what can get them there, and then really sell them on that. And then you get to the pitch, which is where you're pitching what you're actually offering. This is where you're telling them what the offer is. And so that's where you'll drop your irresistible offer, right? And then the objection handling. You pitched, you just sit there. You pitched, and then they'll probably ask, okay, what's the price? When you say the price, let's say, so it's a one-time payment of $8,000 and then $1,500 a month for ongoing maintenance and support. You sit there in silence. The first person who talks loses. I've sat there for 5 minutes before. I've sat there for multiple minutes, just sitting there, looking at the camera. You just don't want to say a word. It might feel awkward. It will feel awkward if you're sitting there for longer than like 5 seconds. You're just staring at the camera, looking around. But they're thinking about it. They need to speak first. You don't want to say anything else because there's nothing that you can say in this case that will have a net positive. There's nothing you can say. You just want to sit there in silence and let them think, come to a decision themselves. And so then they'll say something, and then it might be an objection. Hey, that's a lot of money. And then you get into the objection handling. Objection handling is never fun, but if you know how, it's not super difficult. And so the objection handling, you'll handle whatever the main objections are. It'll usually be something along the lines of money, or it'll be a smoke screen saying, oh yeah, I need to think about it. Anything along those lines, right? You need to handle those objections. And then you close the deal. You close the deal, you collect the payment, and then for us, you submit a sales report form. This sales report form triggers the entire onboarding process. We've automated a ton of it. And so the closer, they close this deal. So the first thing, right, the triager handed off the prospect to the closer, right, with that form. And now the closer is going to be handing off the client that they've now closed to the client success manager through another form. So this is the sales report form. They're submitting this form. They're saying, the closer saying which closer closed them, how should they close them up front, what are the payment terms if they're paying in installments, how is the close, what kind of angle did they take, was it a smooth close, was there a lot of objections you need to be handled, where did they find out about us, what was their lead journey to get on there, was it paid ads, organic, did they join our school community, then book, watch YouTube, whatever it may be. And then they're submitting that form, and that form is triggering the entire process. We create a Google Drive for the client, and that triggers that to be made automatically with all the resources inside of it. It sends them an email. And so now I'll kind of show you what that onboarding process looks like here. So when they submit that sales report form, that triggers this to get sent. That triggers, because this section here is actually for our partners when they submit a form, so it's a little bit different. But when our closer submits that form, this email gets sent to the client with an onboarding form on it, just quickly letting them know what the next steps are. Fill out this form, then yada yada yada, which I'll go through here. But they fill out that form. So on this form here, right, we're collecting everything we need to know about the AI build itself. And I recommend you follow this exact same process. Genuinely copy this exactly, because this is a very good onboarding process. Clients have loved this process. They love it. And so I recommend you just copy it, honestly. We're asking them for name. Let me zoom in a bit more. We're asking for name, email, phone number, business name, the login to our platform, of course, and they can create their account right there. We're getting them to upload a document with all the questions they usually get asked, because we want the AI to have as much knowledge as possible about their business. So all the questions that they typically get asked, objections they get, all that sort of stuff. Upload a script that maybe their team's currently using that they know works very well, because that gives us a good idea of what structure we can follow with the AI. Because they have a script that's working well with humans, that will work well with the AI, especially with increased volume. And so we get that from them. How many agents did you purchase? What is the purpose of each agent? We already know this typically from the call, but we want them to have it in writing, so that we, down the line, it protects you if they say, oh, this isn't what I asked for. Well, actually, this is exactly what you asked for. How many follow-up calls would you like for each AI to make? How often? Do you want the AI to follow up once a day for a week, twice a day for a month, whatever it may be? Explain your business as if you're explaining it to a kid. What is your niche target market? What are their main problems and constraints they face? What do you want these AI agents to do specifically? As you can see, we asked this twice in different wording, just so that we make sure we know exactly. They have written twice what they want the agents to do, and any other info we should know. And then they book their onboarding call and submit the form. When they book this call, this triggers another Zap. The type form, this all gets added to a Google Sheet, so we have that tracked. And then it sends messages to our solutions engineer in Discord. It pings him. He gets notified, hey, there's a new client onboarding. You need to get ready now. Our solutions engineer is essentially a client success manager for the end user clients. And so, because he's also technical, right? We have a client success manager for the, our partner program side, which doesn't need to be as technical, but on this side, when we're working with businesses and doing builds, he's a software engineer, he's our solutions engineer, and he does the builds for the clients. And he also does the builds for our partners' clients. And so then the onboarding call, he has a quick call with the client, and then he starts the build. On this call, he's getting access to any systems, making sure all the info they submitted on their form is accurate, getting access to their CRMs, anything he needs to build for the build. He starts the agent build, does any integrations, follow-up triggers, webhooks, etc. Then he hops on a final call, usually after about a week or so of doing the build, really thorough testing. And then he hops on a final call with the client to launch the AI and make sure they're happy with it. And then that's how you build a smooth onboarding process. A lot of it's automated. And then a smooth onboarding process leads to a happy client. And that's how you get referrals. Because as soon as the onboarding process is good, the client, as soon as they get their first bit of results, that's when you ask about referrals. And so that's our onboarding process. And that's how you make a very smooth onboarding process. Now, let's get back to this here. So in terms of the fulfillment options, right? how can you go about fulfilling for these clients? There's a couple different ways. One is do it yourself. You can always do it yourself, right? That's what we did at the beginning. Most people do that at the start, right? When you can't afford an engineer and you don't really know what you're doing, you got to learn a bit, right? And so option one is do it yourself. You can do it in the beginning, but it's not scalable, and you won't be able to do complex build unless you're a developer. You just won't. And that's what made us hire a solutions engineer or a software engineer about a year and maybe 15 months ago, was because we did the first couple builds, and then one client came in and he asked for a build that we could not do, and so that's when we hired engineers. Now, option two is outsourcing. You can hire engineers on Upwork, Fiverr, any kind of place like that, online jobs, PH. You can get people for pretty cheap, but it's a little risky, right? Because they're in usually another country. If you're getting them for like a couple $100 or maybe $1,000 to do a build like this, to where you're still profiting very good. Or if you close for 10K and you pay 500 to $1,000 for an engineer in like India or Pakistan or Philippines to do this for you, you're profiting pretty good. But it's a bit risky, right? Because it's tough to communicate with them if the client wants changes and stuff. Just overall, it's pretty cheap, which is good, but it is a bit risky. And option three is a specialized fulfillment partner, which is like what we do for our clients, right? Let me just take a quick sip of coffee here. And that's what we do for our clients, right? They close a client and they submit that form. They go through that whole process as well, but they pass it. The first step is a bit different. They pass that form to their client and then they go through the whole same process. And so you can work with a specialized fulfillment partner like us, for example. And if you do want to do that, if you do want to work with us, and we'll help you build out all of this stuff I'm going through here, as well as the onboarding and fulfillment, you can click the link below. There's a couple links below that you can check out. But it's a very seamless process, a very smooth handoff, and it's very repeatable and predictable, right? You just focus on the sales. We help you build everything. You just focus on the sales, and then you hand over the client to us. We fulfill for them, and you close your next deal. Makes it very easy, and that's something I wish we had at the beginning because it makes life a lot easier. Now, number three is delivery and client success. So this is a quick overview of the process, right? I went through the entire onboarding process, but I'm going to go through it a little bit right now as well. So they get a payment. They get the welcome email. They submit the onboarding, or they get the onboarding form, extensive questions for the AI build to make sure we're equipped. Then they submit the form and book onboarding call with Solutions Engineer. Solutions Engineer reviews onboarding form. They have the onboarding call. Begin building integration, extreme testing, launch call with client training on the, let me fix that typo. Client training on the AI, because we don't want them to come back to us in a week and be like, hey, how do I do this? So the solutions engineer also trains them on that launch call to make sure, hey, this is how you make little changes to the script if you need to. But we also have in our agreement that if you make changes and you break the AI and you want us to fix it, it's a $500 minimum one-time fee. Because we have had so many times before we had that clause in the agreement where we'd give the agent to them and be working perfectly, and then in a few days or a week later, they'd come back to us and be like, hey, it's broken. Like, what do you mean it's broken? It was working perfectly. You guys were happy with it. It was working great. We tested it. And then we go in and the AI is completely changed. And we're like, oh, this is why it's not working, because you completely changed the entire agent. And so we added that in the agreement, and that protects us quite a bit. So now that is phase 4, closing and fulfillment. Now let's get into the final phase here, phase 5, scale and build the machine. And so scaling and building the machine, this phase 5 is usually, I would say, when you're at probably minimum the 15K a month mark, I'd say, probably closer to the 20K a month mark with this specific business model. But again, a lot of these people, we didn't even hire them until we were at like 50K a month. So it also depends on what you're looking to do, right? So there's a couple four main aspects of phase 5, building and scaling the machine. And so phase 1, or the first part, is building the team. Huge. 2 is automate the operations. 3 is scaling paid traffic, and 4 is increasing MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and LTV, lifetime value. So let's go through this here. This is kind of the icing on the cake of everything here. And this is how you can really scale, because everything I've showed you up to now, the first 4 phases are really everything you need to get you to like 20K a month, 30K a month. Now, 5, scaling and building the machine, this is what gets you to 50, 100K a month. So building the team, triager. Like I talked about earlier, triage, the one making the calls, confirming the calls, calling leads manually. They're the first hire you want. They're low cost. You can usually, like, we got ours for 5% commission, so no salary, just commission on deals that close and they called. So they do the confirmation call and they submit that form with the rating and everything, and that deal closes, we give them 5% of the deal. Critical for high volume, very critical, because let's say with YouTube, right, it's tough to filter people out as much with YouTube, right? So we get a lot of unqualified bookings from YouTube that we want to get off our calendar. So our triager calls all these leads and he just boom, cancels if they're unqualified. And then if they are qualified, submits the form and everything and lets us know how qualified they are. Then setter, a bit later down the line, but for outbound scaling, that's a setter just messaging people, booking appointments for you over text, usually text, maybe email, but usually text or DMs. And they're handling a lot of that communication inside of maybe Go High Level, for example, communicating with leads that are messaging you, and they're booking appointments. And again, setters are usually a 5% commission as well, to where they book the appointment, and if the deal closes, if any deals close that they booked, you give them 5% of the deal. And then a closer is, of course, somebody who's taking the sales call and closing the deal for you, right? They're commission based. They're usually 10%. So this whole process here, let's say you have all of this set up. Closers 10%, setter 5%, triager 5%. This is 20% you're giving up on a deal, right? And you might think, oh my God, 20%, I don't want to give up 20%. But if you have these in place, which is like what we do, it's completely automated, right? Like you have everything automated. I'll be working, and all of a sudden I see a payment come through. And I'm like, okay, sweet, I have to give 20% away, but we just got paid and I'm working on something else. That's what's nice about it. Yeah, you give up 20%, which you might not like, but 20% to the team is amazing, because now you can kind of sit there and work on other things. And you really did automate your entire sales process at this point. So you're fully removed from the sales process and you just have to give up 20%. And then an engineer. Engineers are very useful, right? We do, like I said, we do builds for our clients with our engineers, but our goal is eventually to place an engineer into your business so that you no longer need to use our engineer at the end of working with us, and you're good to continue scaling on your own. And so they can do the builds for the clients, and it's kind of like a client success manager, but for the technical side. And then a client success manager is very, very useful. Client success managers are amazing. Their main job is to onboard clients, handle client communication, and do upsells, right? So where upsells, cross sells down the line, which I'll kind of get into on the last section of this part here. So that's building the team. Those are the main roles you want to hire. And then there's also things down the line where you can hire marketing people, media buyers. You can hire like assistants, administrators, all that sort of stuff. And then automating the operations, right? So you really do want to automate as much as possible. So automate the onboarding process, which is that onboarding process I showed you there. If you set that up, that's fully automated, right? It's fully automated as long as you have one of these hires, because you'll have to do it in the beginning. I did all the onboarding at the beginning, and then we hired a client success manager. Now he does all the onboarding. Pre-built SOPs and trainings. This is huge. This is massive. I'm actually going to show you this here. I'm going to show you some of our SOPs, because SOPs are standard operating procedures. These are trainings. We call them playbooks, for example, because when we bring on a new hire, instead of having to just verbally explain them to everything, we have an SOP or a training or a playbook that shows them everything they're going to need to do inside of their role. I'm going to show you the one right now for a closer, for example, the one we showed our closer. We have one for a setter, triager, closer, engineer. I'm going to show you the one for a client success manager we have as well. But I'm going to show you our playbook for our closer. All right, so this is our playbook for our closer. As you see, closer playbook. A closer, this playbook is dedicated to everything you need in order to succeed at Insight AI. We have absolutely everything inside here. You can see we have onboarding timeline for them. When they get onboard, what's their process look like? What is the partner program? This is for the partner program side. We do also have one for the end user side as well. But I just picked this one to show you. Tools. What tools do you need? Insight platform walkthrough, sales call recordings, all the SOPs, sending a sales call partner program a roadmap. What does they go through? Methods of accepting payment, how to send service agreements, how to schedule follow-ups, sales report form, what's that whole process look like, end of day report so they can submit that, pipeline management, client onboarding process, Insight AI Academy Gold, the offer pricing, your specific job roles and duties, how the growth consultant compensation, what are they getting paid, and client acquisition funnel breakdown. So as you can see, this is pretty damn extensive in here. And so if I were to pick one of these, for example, let's do client onboarding process, for example. So this is the client onboarding process. Walks them through, and there's a video of me walking through what that process looks like. And then this is the Lucid chart for the onboarding process. And then I walk through the whole onboarding process for them here, what that looks like with the welcome email and everything. And this way, when we bring on a closer, I just hand them this. I'm like, okay, you're going to go through everything on here. And then when you're ready in probably 2-3 days, we'll hop on a call to make sure you're comfortable with everything. And then we'll get you started taking calls. So this is why playbooks are so important. And then as you can see here, if I click on this thing over here, we have oops, let me pop that out. We have playbooks for the end user side of things, triager, client success manager, setter, and then another triager one, which is just there. But yeah, so those are the playbooks, and they're very, very useful. So let's get back over to this Lucid here. And so that's why SOPs are massive, right? And then as we have somebody in that role, if our closer, for example, there's other things that he maybe needs, things he doesn't know how to do. When we show him how to do them, we'll tell him, hey, now add that to the playbook. So now when we bring on another closer in the future, it's constantly being updated. And so as more and more closers come through, that's just going to be a better, more in-depth playbook for the future closers that come through. And then you also want to set up internal pipelines to keep track of leads. If the lead comes through, triage, close, onboard, fulfillment, success, where each lead is throughout the process, right? We have pipelines for the lead process, the booking process, and the onboarding process, and then pipelines for like our school community, pipelines for everything to track where people are. Then there's scaling paid traffic. So we kind of already discussed how to find the winners, right? The winning creative copy, headlines, all that sort of stuff, the interest targeting. And you want to spend more on those. And so it's pretty simple. Scaling paid traffic. If your return on ad spend is, let's say, 4x, you put in $1, you get $4. You put in $100, you get $400. If you put in 1,000, you'll get 4,000. You put in 10,000, you'll get 40,000. And so you want to just pump more into what's working. If it's working, pump more money into it. It's simple as that. People just don't do it. And then you want to split test funnels, test multiple different things, see if things can be improved in certain aspects. You'll be surprised. You can have 2 different funnels. The only thing different is the headline, and you'll be able to see which one performs better. And it's probably a pretty drastic difference. You can add YouTube ads, add Google ads. We run a low amount of Google ads now. You can add TikTok and Meta organic strategy. You can run TikTok and Meta ads, or TikTok ads because you're already running Meta ads. We can add these organic strategies, YouTube videos. You can start posting all these sorts of things. And this all, I guess the organic side isn't as much the paid traffic, but you do want to focus on scaling the paid traffic, and a lot of that's just pumping more money into what's working. As you're closing clients, you want to increase your ad spend. As your MRR, or your monthly revenue is increasing, you want to increase ad spend. Now, how do we go about increasing monthly recurring revenue and lifetime value? A huge thing is upsells. People massively overlook upselling their current clients. These people are the most qualified prospects you have in your entire company ecosystem. Like, these people have already paid to work with you. They already trust you. They already know you. They like you enough to want to work with you and pay you. Those are the best people you go to when you have new offers and you want to upsell. Go to them, upsell more agents, maybe automations, maybe marketing integrations, things that they would potentially be interested in and want to pay for. Then there's maintenance packages where you can throw in monthly retainers for, more monthly recurring revenue. You have a referral program. We have a referral program where if you send us a client, or you send us somebody for our partner program, we give you 10%, almost as if you close the deal as a closer, right? We give you 10%, which that's like anywhere usually from $900 to $1,500 just for sending us somebody. And then cross sells. Cross sells are very good. If a client asks about anything related to the service, give them a price and do it. We had a client not long ago. He was like, "Hey, can you guys build a funnel for me and write my VSL script and thank you video script and stuff?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't usually do that, but yeah, if you wanted to do it, it'll be $22.50 is what we charged." And we did that for them, and that was a cross sell, for example. And so that added lifetime value to that client. So they paid us for the service, and they paid us for that as well. And that was pretty easy for us to do, right? Because we've done it so many times. And so that's something very easy for us to do. And so that is phase 5, scale and build the machine. So guys, we've gone through a ton of stuff here, like a ton of stuff. I've literally just showed you everything you can need to possibly know to be able to start and scale your agency. Laying the foundation, we got the laying the foundation section, crafting offer and assets, phase 2, phase 3, lead generation machine with the exact ad campaign structure and how to find the winner, how to structure that. Phase 4, closing and fulfillment. And phase 5, scale and build the machine. So this is quite literally everything you possibly need. If you guys want us to help you implement all of this, our whole team to come in there, check out the links below and you can book a call with us and we can see if you'd be a good fit. But overall, guys, if you just follow this, you'll be in a very, very, very good position. And yeah, if you guys want me to break down any of these more specifically, any individual sections, make a separate video just going in depth on that, even more, just let me know and I'll do it. But that's everything here. So I'll see you in the next one.